Alright, so we're gonna make this IP address right here. So this is a GET request, meaning that anyone who searches, okay, first part, like I said earlier, which says GET, is the description of what type of request request that is being detailed. So this line right here is gonna be a GET request because the first line says it's a GET, and like I said earlier, a GET request is anything that a user asks the server so that he can get content back, and it requires no privacy or security in that information being sent. Or yeah, hopefully you got what I meant earlier. Anyways, GET. So it's GET, and then the second part, which is in parentheses that says slash register, is the address. Now I'm gonna change the name because register does not apply to what we're gonna be making, so I'll just call it slash home. So this is the address, just like some site, let's say google.com/maps. So that slash maps is a more detailed address that's telling Google I want to go to maps. And there, it takes me to maps. So just like that, this is, even though we don't have the actual site name right here, whatever name of our site is, it'll end up looking like this: www dot uh, blah blah .com/home. Except Rails already knows what our website name is if we already have one, and so we don't need to input that, or we're not supposed to input that in the IP or in the routes when we're describing the different routes. So all we gotta have is /home. And then you put a comma. So after you choose the name of the address, you put a comma, and you say to. Now this part is now telling where to go if someone searches this address. So if our server that we're making, which is this whole folder that we generated, this Rails project, if our website receives this address or this request from a computer, a get/home request, then we will get that and we will do this action. So the first part is like we're describing the receivable part, and then we're saying if we do receive that, then do this, which is telling the computer to go to a specific file, and this is actually a specific file. Well, not right now, it isn't, so let's do that. And it's telling the computer to go to a place called the controllers, and that is over here. Okay. So we were just in here in config because we're dealing with the routes, and another part in the folder is the controllers. So we go in the app folder, and there it is, the controllers. This folder is going to contain all the different controllers that we're going to deal with. Or yeah, right now we only have one application controller, which is this, but we are going to add many more, or actually for this project probably only one other controller. And to explain what the controller is, I'll go to a drawing again. Where is this file? Alright, so we have the routes, the file, the routes. So R stands for the routes. And we have all the addresses. So this is the first wave of requests from someone's computer, searching www dot whatever our address is. The router or the routes file then receives that, and then it receives that through this first part. Where is that file? It receives that by because we already named it out. So if you look here, we get a request, and it looks through to see if there's any matching addresses, and it looks through. So if we were to look through the actual file, it looks through, and bam, there's a matching address, get/home. So then it goes to that address, and then we tell it what to do, which is we're telling it to go to this specific place, and we'll just call it hello home. Now you're wondering, what is this? This is a name of a controller that we're gonna make, and so we're telling the routes to send the computer over to the controller. So in the picture, I'd be telling the computer to go to the brain. The controller is pretty much the brain of the computer. So you can make a little brain picture. Squiggly lines. Guy's eyeballs. This is brain. So this is controller. This is where we process all the information, and where all the work gets done. Dang it, there's nowhere to pause. Or I'll just have to cut it out. Alright, so an easier way to look at your project is to look at it through Sublime, which is this application. So what I'm going to do, and what you should do too, is you grab the folder and you just drop it in Sublime app. Now it shows our folder, and we could browse through our entire folder through Sublime. So it's a lot easier than having to go through the Finder window. So we open Hello World, and we got all these folders, and they're the same exact folders as in Finder. And we're gonna go to controllers. So we open the controllers folder is in the application folder right here. So we open it up and we find controllers. And now we're gonna create a new file. So we're gonna right click the controllers folder, and we're gonna select new file. And in this new file, we're gonna save it, because we're telling it to go to the home. This command is telling the computer to find the hello controller, and then within the hello controller, find a segment of code titled home. So first thing we gotta do is, because we don't have a controller that is called hello. Right now, all we have is application controller, and this application controller is like, it's the default thing, and there's other purposes for it, but not for what we're doing right now. So we're gonna create a new file. We created it, and now we gotta save the file because it's untitled. So we save it, and in Rails, the titles of these files are really important. You gotta stick to the format. So you can't just name it a random name. I mean, the first part you can, like, actually, but the second half has to be a specific format. So we call it hello, because that's the name of the controller. Hello, and under dash, you have to do the under dash, and hello control. Alright, I was just looking. I had to check if it was plural. So the weird thing about in Rails is that when you title a controller file, you always have to make the first part plural. So you see how it says hello? You can't do hello the singular form. You gotta do, even though this is not even grammatically correct, you have to make it plural. For some reason, Rails just has done it that way, and that's a syntax that you just gotta do. So hello, add the S, so now it's hello's world. Controller, and then controller dot RB, and that's one more thing I need to check. Hello's controller. Okay, yeah. So we named it right. So hello's controller, save, and now you have hello's controller. Now within it, we gotta. This is like the basic format that you gotta do when you're starting off your file. Class, just like when you send a letter, you write from Austin to whoever it is, or you write the heading on the top of the page. You know, like the date, your name, the class, those specifics. So class, and then we write the name of the controller, which is hello's controller, no space. And I think, okay, so hello's controller, and then you do this alligator sign. Application controller. And this part is what we call inheritance, and hopefully, no, not hopefully, you should have learned the basics of programming before taking this course and know what object-oriented programming is. Well, this is basically pretty much object-oriented programming. Hello's controller is a subgroup of application controller, so it inherits all the properties of application controller. Application controller is this guy, and even though there's no code in it, it automatically has all these functions and all these features that you can use and do that are very useful, not just useful, that are required to make a new controller. And so we need all those functions. So by saying hello's controller inherits application controller, we're saying hello's controller receives all the features from application controller. It's like if you're a parent, your child will receive all your genes, all your features. Not all your features, but imagine if they did. So it's like by having this alligator sign, we're saying hello's controller acquires everything the application controller has. And then the end is that's the format of programming. You gotta end somewhere. You gotta say where the file ends. Alright, now the way the controller works is kind of simple, or it's not simple, but basics of how it's structured is just think about it like, say we have a robot, say this file represents the brain of a robot, and a robot can't think like humans do, be dynamic, choose on the spot, adjust, adapt. They need to have every single one of the movements already programmed in the brain. Move forward 1, turn right 2. They need to have everything listed out. Every single possibility of what it does needs to be already told, programmed to tell what it is. So like, if we wrote one command, say one action was titled take out the trash, take out the trash. Now this is not programming, this is just me trying to get you to understand how the controller works. So we have this action, and in the action we need to describe everything that it does. Take out the trash, so move 2 steps forward, bend down 50 degrees, stretch arm out 2 feet, clench hand and pick up. Then move to trash. So you see how this is one action for the robot, and we gotta tell it every single thing it needs to do. But a robot has more than one action. It doesn't just take out the trash. What else can our robot do? Our robot can recharge. What does that mean? Check battery levels. Day flow. Move 10. Move to recharge center. Confirm that you have docked. And stay till full recharge. Anyway, so you get the point. We could go on and on with all the different actions, and we could have all kinds of different actions, except we could just title them different. So this one could be clean. This one could be sing. This one could be etc. This one could be talk. So we would have all these different actions, and that way if forget that. So this is kind of how the controllers work. We have actions like take out the trash, and then we describe what to do for every single step, which makes up that action. And then we have another different action, and there's description of how to do that, going through every single step. So everything is pre-described. Now, if we had a robot, we wouldn't just want it to just go through every single one of these steps in sequential order or alphabetical order, not alphabetical order, in a chronological order. Like here, take out the trash, then recharge, then clean, then sing, etc., then talk. No, then we'd have like a crazy robot just doing random things all the time. We would have like buttons on a robot instead, and whatever kid has a robot would click a button, and it would expect it to do that. So there'd be a button that says sing on the robot. Some kid clicks the sing button, and that triggers the robot to execute the sing action, which then executes all these commands. Check battery levels, except no, it would be more like open up audio box, um, input electricity, select song, and select volume. And then, yeah, that would be the sing action. And then if you click another button, take out the trash, it would go to our pre-described action. Take out the trash, do all its commands. Move 2 steps forward, bend 50 degrees, stretch arm 3 feet, clench hands and pick up, move to trash. So that is how the controllers work in Rails. What would be the buttons on a robot that we select would be the different website addresses that we search on the browser. So when we're on Google Maps, that's one button. It goes to the controller and selects one action to do, which is maps. Over here, so this one address that we detailed, get home. This is a way to tell our controller what action to do. Get home, and we're saying if someone searches get home, then they're to go to the hello controller, which we have over here, and they're to do the home action. So the controller is separated by a parentheses, and I gotta add it. You gotta make it plural. Hello's controller. So go to the hello's controller, and then it's separated by a pound mark, and then it says, and do the home action. So in this way, this address, if searched, works just like that button of a robot, where you click on it and it does a specific action. So we'll have an action. Now this is now typing in the actual programming language, not the human language as we did over here. So this is the syntax you need to memorize. It's not even needing to memorize, it's just really easy. So you say define home, which will be the name of the action, just like over here it's recharge, clean, sing. Over here the action is called define home, and actually we want to have some indent. Define home, and you gotta end. Every single action you gotta end, because you gotta tell where that specific action ends, or it's just gonna go on and on and on to overlap with other actions that you write. So this is like if you did a parentheses when quoting somebody. It's like you quoting someone like that, blah blah blah, they said some lines, and you didn't have the second parentheses. Then it never ends. So that's why you gotta have the last parentheses. That's what the end is for. So now we gave this thing a title. Now we gotta actually describe what it does. Just like over here, move 2 steps forward, bend down 50 degrees, stretch arm, blah blah. Except the thing about this action home, which should just show them the home page that says hello world, is way simpler than any of these other actions. That actually you have to do stuff like check battery levels. Over here, for the home action, the only thing that we gotta do is show the reader or our online web site visitor hello world. And so that really doesn't require any logic. Now if we had something that was more complicated, like slash say our address was something more complicated. Say what we were making was some picture hosting website, and we had a link that said dog pictures, and then this went to the action dog pictures. Then we would create some action, define dog pictures, and in here there'd be more logic. We would have to, now I'm not, this is not actually writing in code, this is just writing English language. Dog pictures, we would have to query database for dog, and then we'd have to select order, and then we would format size, and then finally we would send it to be viewed. So there's more actions required in this, right? But in this simple define home action, in this home action, all we're doing is saying hello world. So really, we don't need to do anything in here. But we must have this open. We must have this route defined. Because if you don't, then there's gonna be no action. It's like if what's the simplest action a robot could do? Say the action is turn off. Now, there's no multiple steps. There's nothing to be done here except literally off. But the thing is, if you didn't have this action described, the robot wouldn't know how to do it. Because a robot is not a human. It doesn't have its own adaptive thinking. It just does what is prescribed. So since if it didn't have it, there would be no turning off. You'd click off some button that says turn off, but there'd be no action. But if you have it action, regardless of how simple it is, it'll do it. And so that's why we have this action called define home, and we have nothing in it. Because all we need to do is say hello world. Right now, let's okay there. Let's put this back to its normal settings. Okay, hello world. So from here, now let's get rid of all this stuff now that I'm done with the robot example. So now that we're here, where does the computer send the where does the computer go after it's completed the action in the controller? So now we go to the views, and I'll show that real quick. So from the controller, it finishes doing all the processing, even though in our specific example, home, there was no processing, but we gotta have that action described so that it can do it. So now it's gonna go to the views, and the name is not very descriptive of what it is, but the views is where we actually get all the content and we make it into a viewable format. So this is where all the designing happens, like, you know, where do we want the logo to be, where do we want our content to be, where do we want hello world to be placed on the web browser of the web user that is visiting our website. So that's where we put the actual designs and everything, you know. So this is the arts and craft place, and the way so to do that, Rails automatically detects that this is an action, and it knows for every action, or mostly every action, we want to go to we want to get our actions, and we want to put it into a viewable content. So it automatically searches for a design, not design. Alright, let's drop that explanation. It's not gonna work. So this is the views right here. Right here. This is the views. This is where the design happens. Well, the design happens in two places. A place called the views, and also in the assets. So if you know CSS and HTML, well, you need to know CSS and HTML. So if you haven't learned it, go learn it on Code Academy or many other online places. It's not a hard language, but it takes some time and you gotta do it. So views is where, let's say, the HTML happens, and the assets is where the happens. So this is like the arts and crafts centers. Um, so we'll create uh, create a new folder, and we have to create this new folder, and we'll call it hello. Hellos. So you see how this name corresponds to the name of controller? You have to do that in order for Rails to know that it corresponds to this controller. So hellos. So there, now we have this hellos controller, and we're going to create a new file. And this is an HTML file. So we're going to call it, what's the name of the action that we just created? We created the home action. So we're going to call this file home.html.erb. So HTML, so this is describing what type of file it is, .html.erb. This file is a HTML file, but it's also something called ERB, which makes it so that we can also write in the language HTML mixed with Ruby language. And you'll see why we need to do that later. Right now it's not necessary. So we save the file. There, we got home HTML. So from the controller, it's gonna from the routes, it's gonna find the address. It's gonna send to the controllers. It goes to controllers and it finds action to find home. There's nothing inside to find home, so it's like, oh well, I guess there's nothing. Now let's go to the viewable. Let's go to the Arts and Crafts Center to create our web page that we're gonna send back to the user. And so Rails is smart enough to know where to go. It automatically decides that since we're in the hellos controller and we're in the home action, it's gonna search the views folder, which is this folder, the views. It's gonna go in the views folder and it's gonna look for a folder called hellos, because this is a format that Rails is programmed to know, and so we're just following that format and taking advantage of it. So Rails knows, okay, there must be a hellos folder, and so there it is, and it goes in hellos folder and it searches for the action home. So home, no, not action, it searches for the HTML file home, because our action is called home, and voila, it finds it and it gets it and it sends it back to our user, not user, our visitor of our website. So in here, now in here is where we're gonna write hello world. So hello world, and you can type whatever you want. Oh, that's all we're gonna write, hello world. And now if we visit this address, this is what we will get back on our web browser. So now, how do we test it out? How do we check it out? The way we can do that is you gotta go in the command prompt, and now you gotta go, like I said last time, you gotta what is it called? You gotta browse into the folder, your Rails project, which is our Rails project is Hello World. We created it, but we're in admin folder right now, and we can't be in there. We gotta get into our folder. So ls just to see all the directories in the admin folder. And now I'm gonna search, where is that? Alright. Rails projects, so CD. Well, I don't know if you guys need to do this because, well, you guys don't need to do this part of Rails projects. So now I'm in the Rails projects. This is the folder that I created, Hello World. You know, if I go back and show you in a more obvious way, you're an admin. I go into Rails projects, and this is our app. So go into that. That's what this is doing. So now we see ls cd into hello world. Hello world. Now I'm in. So clear on that. Now we're in hello world. So I want to test this all out. So how do I test this out? Well, we gotta turn our computer into a server for our Rails project. And how do we do that? It's really simple. All you gotta do is you type in Rails S. Oh no, but before that though, actually, so we type in Rails S and we wait. And this is gonna turn our computer into a server for Rails S. So we're waiting. And I think we should be good. So just like a website, you know, websites have addresses like www.google.com. That's how you access them. For this testing, or making our computer into a temporary server so that we can test our website out. Well, it's nowhere near a production level, but this is for testing our site. So this is not what you actually do to run your website. This is simply to test out what you did. And so it tells us Rails 4.2 app starting in development on HTTP localhost 3000. So that's the address. So we're going to search in that address. Go in Chrome. And it brings us to this page. Now what the heck is this page? We never made this. Why is it showing us something we never made? But still, if you've never done this, it's kind of cool, you know? You have something you made and it's online. But, well, we never did this. And the reason why you're seeing this is because Ruby on Rails, they have it so when you generate, think about it, we generated hello world with, you know, remember the command, we said Rails new hello world, and that generated a Rails app. And since it's generated, Rails automatically defaults its settings so that when you generate a new Rails app, it makes it so that the first page that you visit when you do Rails, when you make your computer into a server for the application, is this page that we just saw. And the reason they do that is just to show us all the, you know, Rails guides, API, core, whatever, all this stuff. But we can easily just get rid of that. Yeah. But now to see our actual website, not website, our actual page that we worked on, which was the address home, all we gotta do is do /home, and anything in the browser that you search is a GET request most of the time. So this is already a GET request. So we're sending a GET request to this URL localhost 3000/home GET request, and that exactly matches what we put in here, get/home. And so it's gonna match it with that, and then it's gonna go to Hello's home controller, and it's gonna go through it. There's nothing in it, but then it's gonna go into the Arts and Crafts Center, the views, and it's gonna find its file home.html, and it's gonna send this back to us. So enter. Ooh, we got an error. Now what's going on over here? Unable to autoload constant Hello's controller, unexpected users, blah blah blah. Hello's controller.rb to find it. Expected users, Hello's world, Hello's controller. So what's going on? Raise error items constant. Alright, I think what has happened is that I have named something incorrectly, and it's resulted in an error. So let me check out what is going on. So hello's controller. Oh, I didn't save. That's why I gotta save. Or actually, that might not be the reason either. But let's see if that works. Oh, there. Okay, so the problem was I didn't save, and so because I didn't save, I guess this file was equivalent to that, and it can't be. Okay. So there you go. That's the end of. We made it to the end of this lesson. We accomplished it. Hopefully, you were able to get to this place same as me or along with me. And there you go. Hello world. So with that, we've gone through the very elementary beginner steps of creating this a Rails app. There's so much more. I'm not saying this to discourage you, but to tell you that this isn't all you're limited to. There's so much more you can do, and so much more you will become or be able to do soon. Not soon, but after some good hello world. Yeah, so thanks for watching, thanks for following along, and I hope you keep watching. Yeah, alright, bye.